We made it to episode 7. We've done a week of Tea with Maya. Today I have a Lady Grey. Lady Grey. And it's the perfect temperature for drinking, so I must remember to drink while I chat. I still find it so funny that that's what I have to remember to do. I realize I can definitely argue with myself, having started chatting with these and ranting through these. Half an hour seems to go by quite quickly, which is kind of fun, but also very interesting when you get yourself on these different flows and threads and yeah, so many different angles you can take, huh? I think finding your rhythm with lower effort content creation that doesn't feel like an absolute pain in the ass or pulling teeth is definitely a key when it comes to this game. I've been enjoying my daily newsletters for this year so far, so links to the Pulse up there in my bio and everything if you want to join those. And I'm almost feeling like this is my speaking version of that, where I can actually tease out the different perspectives and insights and things that are floating around in my world and actually troubleshoot them in real time. I think that's one of the few ways that I've always enjoyed Gary Vee's like document, don't create. And I know I've definitely been one of those types that needs to have the process unraveling as I post. I sometimes feel I get in a bit of a disconnect if I spend too long hiding and then not posting and then feeling like I have to then announce myself coming back or yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. The content creation game is very funny. Not that I feel like you should just be posting for the sake of posting. I definitely feel like this is more of an exercise of actually getting my voice out, practicing how I'm speaking things, and again, getting in front of camera and just reminding myself that this isn't a life or death situation. But this could change your life. Like I'm still coming down to that crux of it, of all of it. Content creation can create a life that only you are imagining right now. And I think if there's any doubt with that, one, either you're not looking at the world, or two, it's just because you haven't been in touch with enough of yourself or your wants or your values or your needs in order to actually create what that might look like. I still remember coming out of my spine surgery after I told my business partner that I was taking a step back from the agency, and it was a friend of mine that had forwarded me a Dan Co post from Instagram, and I literally just dove straight down his rabbit hole, and I was like, this is the first time I've ever seen somebody kind of take that influencer role and use it for good and use it on their own products and on their own assets, which they created through continuous content creation over time in order to flesh out what that looked like. And I remember at one point, I'm going to have to draw it because it's a visual that keeps coming back to me, is that there are two different ways that you can kind of enter content creation. One is if you don't know what you're interested, what you want to do, anything, it's a series of just starting to post about topics that do interest you or that you are researching. And so it kind of works from the outside in, where you're taking outside things and you're then creating your own perspective or your own insight or your own view on what others have done and posting about that and writing articles. You see it a lot over on Twitter with the thread style posts where they've got like a famous person and 6 different lessons and all that sort of stuff and what they've taken from that, or different pattern recognition that they've seen across different creators. I remember watching one woman, Chantel, I'm pretty sure her name is Chantel. I think her newsletter was started called Growth in Reverse, and every week she would just break down a big creator's business and what the back end looked like and how they were actually making their income. It was very interesting because, again, it also opens your mind to the fact that there are multiple layers within everything. Again, people are very easy to say, pick one thing, do one thing, but most creators and most people that have gotten past a certain stage, like their income is diversified naturally just down to the amount of assets that they've created over a longer period of time, that now income can come in at all these different touch points and they are able to then also produce different levels of offers that range everywhere from here's my free stuff, that's how you can kind of get a taste of my thoughts and my thinking. That usually ends up being the newsletter, and it stays free because by getting people off of a social media platform and capturing their emails and bringing them into your own domain, like that's gold. And that is what a lot of people, I think, forget in terms of their numbers as well. It's like it's one thing to have a million likes, a million this, or to go viral on that, but how many people are then moving through your actual pathways and into the back end, and how much of that attention on the front end is actually becoming income on the back? And I think that's where this game starts to get very blurred and very easy for it to become a lot more about emotions and metrics and things instead of the cold, hard kind of data points that are business. Put something out, how much attention does it receive, how many people come through? And I think that's where the skill of copywriting comes in over time, and where, I guess, again, writing at the crux of all of this is one of the biggest skills to learn and develop in terms of how you articulate your big ideas, your philosophies, your values, so that your buyers are getting that sense of your world without it always just being very transactional. And I think that's the different layer that personal brands can take, as opposed to, say, maybe a gym or a product or a, that has a specific kind of solution that it's solving and has a specific end goal of their client. Yeah. It's interesting to me. Very interesting. Clearly, I'm doing this. But okay, so starting with content creation, the way that I saw it, delving into Danco's digital economics and being in the creator economy now for however many years, it's been 5 years this year, like fully in it. But I feel like I've been winding my way to figuring this out for many, many, many years. But it's that, okay, so if you don't have a product, a service, a solution, an idea, or anything like that, I feel like that's where I was back when I was doing martial arts just before I'd moved into the agency, and it sort of came down to one sole thinking. Like, I'd come to the realization that I enjoy so many different things. All right, and now the trick is to stick with something long enough to actually give it the runway and the time to do what you want it to do. And I think that runway, a lot of people assume is a lot shorter than it is, in order to actually get something running, get clients coming through, servicing them to the top of your abilities, and then being able to either scale yourself out or build in the next layers of scale. It takes time if you're not dropping the breadcrumbs properly, which is what I kind of talk about in the offer force field. It's like, from where you are, you've got to set these boundaries of, no one can enter my inner circle in one-on-one time now unless they're at this rate, because I've set that. And in the meantime, while I'm talking to and working on my copy to find these people at the rate that I know that I am valued at, in the meantime, I will be placing those breadcrumbs along the line of products and assets that people can join to get into my world, to get a little taste of it. I think something that I love learning from J.K. Molina was about the money line. All right, so picture a line down the middle. On this side, you've got people that haven't spent money with you, and this side, people that have spent money with you. And the money line is here, but a lot of people focus on the people that haven't spent any money with them and getting them over this money line. And a lot of them also then forget about the people that are already over here who might want more from the same person. A lot of times people forget to upsell to their own clients or their own people, forgetting that they actually probably want more of your services if it's doing really good. So there are two different ways, but what's nice about sort of creating this buffer around you and creating these different entry points where whatever you're creating is useful for your core clients. Like it's pieces of information or evergreen content that you'd be developing yourself, I guess, in that sense, that you want as a recording or as a teaching that you can send to people, and inviting them along the way so that it all just kind of starts layering onto itself. Especially with I guess it's not even, I don't like the high ticket thing, because I think by saying high ticket, you immediately put some sort of barrier on the fact that it's expensive. And I think that's been a limiting belief that I've also had to come out of with my own stuff, where my value isn't expensive to the right person. My value is valuable to the right person, and they will pay whatever price tag is on it for the transformation and for the service of being in that. My job is to make sure that I'm not putting my own limiting beliefs on my buyers and assuming that people can't afford it. And I think that's where some of this like high ticket, low ticket, all of this terminology and language comes in, and we start putting these labels on it that almost, again, push it further and further away, or people are like, oh, I can't have a high ticket thing because I don't. And it's very easy to then be playing push and pull with your own offers, and then simultaneously undervaluing yourself by labeling it as high ticket and then being scared that people won't pay for it, or feeling like you're then, I don't know, having to justify why it's that price. And with people like me who have been lifelong chronic people pleasers, it is very difficult sometimes when you set your boundaries and stand in your conviction to not allow that to be wavered. I guess at the beginning, it's more difficult. I think once you've made a certain sale past a point with your hourly rate and you're like, oh, somebody paid that. Immediately, it's quite interesting. Immediately, your body goes, yeah, I'm valued it more. I'm valued it more. And I think I was talking about this in one of those other episodes. And again, it's about creating this little step ladder between where you are, where you want to be, but also where your nervous system is actually at in terms of fighting you on it. Because it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you throw out a ludicrous number and, you're sitting there going, well, nobody in my circle does it. Nobody in my audience are aware of this. Nobody is going to be, wanting to do it. Nobody probably will, because you go into the marketing with that energy as well. What has to then happen with the energy of the marketing is that it has to become so exciting and such a non-brainer to the right person. And this, I guess, is where a lot of people focus on that, like, I guess, the one true avatar or the one true client, or talking to one person in that sense. And again, this is where the lines get muddled, because when you're talking to one person, you feel like you're cutting out all the other people. So this is where I like to take it a step further, and it's like we're not talking to one person in a sense that we're talking to Kathy, who's 35 with 2 kids, a crooked fence, a broken foot that needs something to be sorted. What I like to do with the customer avatars is bring it back down to the philosophies and the values that you hold as a leader, as a coach, as a service provider, or the values that you brought this company to life with. And I think this is where it's going to get very interesting in the next 5 to 10 years of how how quickly people forget their end user, especially with this boom in the AI stuff. I see it. It's very funny to watch. A lot of the people that are trying to use AI are trying to use it to outsource the one thing that they, one, haven't figured out yet, usually, which is the marketing. 2, then, is the sales. People have been very quick to try and get those automated chatbots or anything like that, or get ChatGPT to do their marketing and then wonder why the wrong people are showing up, or wonder why the pipeline's not working, or, wonder why they start losing referrals. I think it's going to be, it's going to be very interesting. I believe that AI should be using in the back end to start with, to allow your humans on staff to be available for the human clients that are available to you. Because I know even for me, when I try and look at something new or want to test something out, the second I run into an AI robot that's asking me questions that the second questions it asks me hasn't listened to the first answer that I've said, I'm like, okay, well, they don't care about who's coming in. It's the same thing I found when I was, well, the organic outreach stuff that I was doing at the agency was brand awareness and more location based for brick and mortars. I have a little course, or a little $33 template and guide that I made a couple of years ago that still to this day works, because it's cold outreach with a human in the back end sending messages. So for F&Bs, for gyms, for brick and mortar businesses that are location dependent, Instagram still has one of the very good location finding features on it. And so I used to do this for our clients. In the back end during the week, I would be spending time on their Instagram posts, looking and engaging with people in the area. I then, after I'd left the agency, I think it was 2 years later, I actually repackaged this. This is when I created the product. I tested it with a friend of mine, one of my sifus, a martial arts gym, down in the arse end of Shangwan, up in one of those buildings that like you wouldn't know it was there unless you knew it was there. And he was struggling to get people to come to the gym. And I tested this for 4 weeks. I spent 20, 30 minutes, 5 days a week on the account, just engaging with people in the area. The other issue that he had was he's quite famous over in the States for some of his fighting choreography that he's been doing. And so he had a lot of followers overseas, which didn't help his gym here. So numbers on the account looked big. People coming into the gym, not so big. So the month that I spent testing this so that I could put it into these templates and into this product, we decided to fill 2 women's self-defense workshops. And we managed to get 10 people in the first one and then 12 people in the second one. So that's 22 people, new people who have physically walked into your gym, yes, for a free trial, which a lot of places offer, but you have that opportunity to showcase what you can do and then lead them into another sale. It's then your job to bring them back or give them something else to come back to. So it was nice to see that that worked again. But I feel like that's the type of stuff that people try to automate or people try to jerry-rig. And when you can take a moment to engage brain and actually think about, like, where are your clients? Where are the people that you want to work with? Like, where are they? Where are they hanging out? What platform are they hanging out on? Where might they be going? And how do you then also think about people adjacent or looking at their routine? Maybe it's because I'm daughter of a detective that I feel like this always comes down to one of those big, like, crime scene boards, and you've got the business at the top with a big question mark in it of like who is the ideal client, and then it's like finding all these threads. What do they do throughout their day? Where can we catch them? Where can we put something in front of their face, and that constant reminder of us being there? Because you also find with social media and brand awareness is that you have to keep up your level of enthusiasm consistently, because you don't know at what point you're going to be catching people along their routine. And again, I bring this back to gyms because that was just the nature of the businesses that we worked with coming out of being a personal trainer and working at gyms. That was the health and wellness industry were our first bunch of clients that came in for the actual agency. And I explained something and then I lost my thread. Detective board, client, routine, gyms. All right. So the brand awareness that I would do with the gym is depending on their price point, depending on the quality of clients that they're looking for, whether it's like a lower ticket group training gym or a high ticket personal training gym, you've got different, I guess, profiles of people, right? That go to different places. I mean, certain brands go with certain brands. Like if you talk about Mac, that's a certain type of person. Android, that's a certain type of person. But it can even go as far as coffee shops. So you've got Starbucks, you've got Pacific Coffee, those are your brand, and you've got Pret. And then in Hong Kong, you've got, say, like Coco Espresso or Elephant Grounds, which are the more bougie coffee shops. And so placing your people throughout their day and then finding where they go, your job is to start showing up around them all the time and in interacting with them, engaging with them. Because I guess the analogy with the gym is that somebody may have a 1 year membership, say a pure gym chain, that they're looking to get out of or they might want to end. And if you come up regularly, when they hit that life cycle of deciding to make another decision for a gym, if they've seen you interacting with them and they've seen you around, you will come top of mind. So you also have to remember that at any given point, your clients might be watching, they might be following you, they may be waiting for a chance to either jump ship with a current provider into you, or they may be waiting for that one thing that you say that lands where they decide to do and both. I think that was a big limiting belief that I had to let go of myself as well, even in the coaching industry, because I see it now in more of the rooms that I've entered into. Some of these women, they will place themselves in multiple mentorships and coaching cohorts. They don't just pick one. They put themselves into many so that they can pick and choose what makes sense from each. Because I feel like this kind of comes back to the relationship conversation in a way where it's like you can't have one person be everything to you. I do take that with a pinch of salt because there are certain mentors and coaches, like I know who my coach is and I will be back in her container very, very soon. I was in it for a year and I loved it and it changed me, and I've had to go away and do the work and put my big girl panties on and suck it up and get to my zero fucks given where I can start doing this and she has something to work with, because I refuse to put myself back into a container where all the coach can do is say, do the initial reps. And I think that is sometimes the hardest part, because you want to be able to have something that can get you through the initial stuff with some guidance, but you don't always necessarily want to jump into a mass container if you also know there are reps to be done. You know, it makes sense to be jumping into these bigger containers when you've got a direction or you've got a point. It's so hard because at the same time, like the whole point of those containers is to give you the direction and to give you the point. But I think, again, it depends on the type of person you are, because I also feel like I'm very coachable, but at the same time, I also feel like if I don't approve of what the person is saying, it's very quick for me to just be like, yeah, well, I'm not doing that. So, yeah, you've also got to see how you react to certain people. But like I said, one coach, I will be in her container very, very soon. Again, not a problem. When you know, you know. I feel like she's got enough of the different areas of life that I want from a coach. And again, it's her values that I've been watching closely that haven't wavered over the years. And I think that is the next layer of, again, reminding yourself how much this takes time. And by consistently showing up, again, the key is consistently showing up with the same enthusiasm over an extended period of time. And that's where it's the finding the ease, finding the fun, finding the joy, letting it be a bit more lighthearted and let the content, I guess, pull you through as well. The other arrow for the content, I don't think I quite finished that thread of thought, was creating from the outside in. Is if you don't know where to start, you find different things, you put it together, and then over time your data points will start to tell you who's interested in what that you've been speaking out about. And then from there, you can decide if that's the topic you want to be diving down and building products and services and offers from, or if you want to take it in a new direction. Again, what's nice about the personal brand is technically you can talk about anything. I put it down to 3 pillars: mind, movement, media, which have always been on the top of my Twitter banner and it's on the top of my newsletter. And I still think those are your 3 mountain pillars as a personal brand, regardless of what you're doing. Mind, movement, media, your mental health, what you're telling yourself and how you're rewiring your brain for your dreams, your vision, and your life. movement, your physical body, your physical health, how you are staying connected to yourself, to your intuition, to your heart, to your goals, and listening, because the answers are within. And then media, what it is you are actually creating in this world. What are you offering? What are you bringing to the table? What is your value? What can you help people with? What can you provide? What is your product? What is your service? Whether that's, I'm not even going to list off things, mind, movement, media. Those are the 3 pillars that you actually can talk carte blanche about anything, which technically encompasses almost everything when it comes to creation. So I think people tend to get stuck with the bottleneck of also feeling like they have to go into one topic and then only be the niche on that topic. It's like, yes, but you are also a human being. And in order to get to that niche on that topic, you probably had to do some sort of limiting belief discussions, probably had to argue with yourself a few too many times. And you've probably had to physically move yourself through discomfort. So even if it's not necessarily training, the act of like taking action towards your goals, creating the art, creating the post, moving, that is also part of your movement. Maybe that's an odd one to mix with the health stuff, but I would say that is actually part of movement too. Action, moving. I guess it tipped me a little bit. I was last night having drinks with my little sister. Her and her man flew through Hong Kong for one more night before they headed back to the UK. They've just had a week in Thailand decompressing from all the craziness that was her performance and her orchestra piece a couple of Fridays ago. And I'm still buzzing from that. Like, I'm still smiling and I still feel a different level of like electricity and creativity in the air at the moment. Could also be the weird weather, but seeing her, one of the other musicians I was chatting to, her daughter, again, small world, ended up being in class with a girlfriend of mine who teaches graphic design at one of the high schools here. She was in her class last year, so we were having a chat the other week when Mum and Sam were leaving, and then I saw her again last night, and she was getting a bit worried because her daughter's quite anxious in general as a person, and when there's changes in schedules and all this sort of stuff, it's a lot. And I just kind of sat there and reassured her. I was like, what's nice though is that she has her own compass. Like, as much as she's a bit quiet and a bit anxious and the world is tough, high school is tough. High school is tough for anybody. There is life after high school. But I had very, I guess, reassuringly or casually sort of said that, she'll be fine as long as she can figure out what she wants to do and then place a bit, like, she's now moving into the era of the generations that don't necessarily need to actually have a 9-to-5 job at all, ever. I mean, if you've ever heard of Jay Yang, I watched him when he started posting online from his bedroom in high school at 15, created his little visual art account, built that up, sold that product, and now he's written a book. He's worked with the Hormozi team. I'm pretty sure he might even still be with the Hormozi team. I'm not sure. Maybe he's back out. Anyway, this dude's like, literally, he went to college because he wanted to and dropped out because he got a job offer with Layla Hormozi and Layla and Alex Hormozi at acquisitions.com, heading up their entire like social media campaign stuff. Dude's 18. He had a internship with Noah Kagan for the $1 Million Weekend book launch and everything that he did, I'm pretty sure straight out of high school. Because he'd sent him a PDF or he'd sent him a brilliant review of everything where he just did things. You can just do things. And I think it's a reminder for that generation where, I mean, her parents are older than me, but not as old as my parents, because her kids are 17, 18, so it's like a weird tandem era. So it's like they're not as old as my parents. They can see the technology, they can see what's building and growing, but they also have always had jobs. So they don't always see the alternatives. And there's still that odd notion of safety with 9-to-5s or with businesses like that I still laugh at, considering everything that's happened through COVID and how many people got laid off, and now how much is changing with, hey y'all. There you go, Lincoln. And now how much is changing with AI. I mean, even seeing the layoffs in Disney, in Marvel, in script writing, like, it blows my mind that they're deciding to get rid of so many of these creative people when the creativity and the prompting behind all of this is what's coming next. But that's besides the point. It's more the fact that the actual job market and the stable job market is becoming so damn unstable that what is more stable is creating your own signal, creating your own audience, creating your own distribution platform, and then over time developing and producing assets and products and things with your community that you see is a fix. Yeah, definitely blows my mind. I mean, I've never been one for wanting a safe job anyway. I never wanted one. I started out freelance, and it was because of my injury that I had to get a job to pay rent. Fair enough. Rent's got to get covered. But there's also a new era of online jobs, you know, remote working, where you can have freelance, again, depending on your skill set. Like, it really depends on your skill set, and it depends on what you want. But there's so much more malleability and options and opportunity if you're prepared to do the work and to put yourself out there. Yeah. And I guess where I feel like I sit and I enjoy, because of maybe where I'm still in the in-between, is this, well, it's funny. All my clients, I'm going to say all of my clients currently, are all in their 40s plus. They've all had very physical-based jobs. And they've come to me because they've been looking at the online side. Like, especially my stunt women lady. They know in the back of their mind they only have 3 to 5, possibly a bit more years of throwing themselves downstairs before their bodies aren't going to be able to handle it anymore and they need to move into different roles. I think that was something that became very prevalent in the modeling world, the shelf life of the role. And I think it's very interesting to see the shelf life of roles throughout life, and reminding yourself that even in a job, it ends at what point? Or at what point does a new, fresh and young comer come in who's happy to take a lower cut of salary because it's more than what they had, and then you're on your ass again. And unless you've been financially clever your whole life, a lot of people are getting into trouble. They're losing their income source with nothing else on the back end ready to set up. And it's a lot. They've inflated their lives into this, new and inflated thing, and suddenly it stops. And then suddenly it's like, I mean, I definitely don't want to be job searching at 60. Like, there's never been a plan. I didn't want to be job searching in general. So, build your own. You can. Content creation. You get to create, but you have to lead it. I think that's the thing where a lot of people go wrong, and where I know I went wrong for a long time. I was waiting for somebody to either build it with me or build it for me, in that sense. When I actually look back at like the actions that I was taking, I could plan it, I could visualize it, it was all brilliant, but then I wasn't prepared to do the actions, and then I wasn't prepared to sit in the plateaus, and I wasn't prepared to do it over time. And I think it's only been in these last 2 years, honestly, when we started doing those AI cohorts, 2024, summer of 2024, was when I fully committed to being the one that was actually building my own philosophies, my own values, my own audience, my own distribution, my own curriculum in that sense, or building my own version of what it is I bring people through. And for me, the final pieces have clicked into place this year with getting Maja Studios up and running and having these AI bots, because I definitely feel like there is still a big disconnect where a lot of very talented people that are very good at what they do offline, it's this close to being able to let that scalability of the floodgates of digital products open for them online. But what that looks like with no guidance, no support, is very tough. It is very tough. And especially when you already have a mental block with social media or with marketing, it's very easy to just be like, I'll do it later. But it's reminding yourself now, and especially if you're in the fitness or the service industry and you've seen how this rolls on for years, start now. Start now. Because 2 years, if you're still planning on being in business and you're still planning on working with your own clients, you will have wished you would have started now. And those reps can't be caught up. I think that's the hard part. And then usually that's when people panic and then they come to me. And it's been very much of a red flag for me. Or not even just a red flag. I've just noticed it a lot more. And I'm very wary of taking on clients that are coming to me that are flailing because they've left it to the last minute and now something's happened that they need something to happen so desperately, but they also aren't quite ready to make it happen, and then it all starts to get a bit messy. And of course, wouldn't it be nice if we didn't have to rush and do anything and we could just let it unfold in our own time? But with quality reps, like, again, this is where the coaching helps, but then the one step down is with the sidekicks. Talk to your sidekicks. Trust something else or use something else, but don't outsource your voice in that sense. And that kind of ties back into another AI conversation that we can have another day, because I'm almost finished with my tea. As you can see, content creation has been a part of my life for a very long time. I've always had a knack for seeing and telling people stories. Maybe that's because of my time as a nanny, because I always used to play Mary Poppins and everything. I'd always try to make it more magical for the kids and fun for them. But I don't know. I definitely feel like there's this cloud of seriousness that has come down on the world. And when everybody gets in front of the camera or is prepared to then go online and start doing their marketing, it moves from this sort of calm demeanor of, I know my shit, into, hello, I can help you with this, and it would be really nice if you buy it. And you completely change how you go into these sales or into these offers. And I think it's flipping it, and it's reminding yourself that it's like it's an invite. And if you know you can help people, you know what you can do. Maybe it's because of all the cancel culture stuff that people are too, like weirded out about putting their foot in it, or like posting something that is then more concrete. But again, like that's where you have to kind of take a step back and go one level further and go a bit meta, where it's like, look, as of today, this is how it stands. This could change, but right now, this is where we're going, and this is the thought progress. And remind your people and remind your clients and remind your audience that you are also curious and ever evolving. I think that's the funnest thing I like to say to people whenever I've had these like community discussions or group discussions that I've gone on, is like, what you geek out on, go harder on that. Because people want to know that you geek out on it so that they don't have to. And that's why they come to you. So yeah, my tip for you this week: geek out. Geek out. And like allow yourself to show that through your marketing, because that's the magic that the quantum leaps happen. It's when you can cut down all these filters and these walls of how you really are with your clients and how much fun you have with your clients, and then presenting that online. And you get to say no to people. I think that's also a nice reminder. Like, you don't have to take everybody that comes to you for your work. And you also get to fire clients if they are no good and no bueno, and start sucking the life out of you and demanding certain things that were not pre-discussed. We hold a lot more power with this creation thing than we realize. But it's pressing record, it's publishing, and it's getting it in front of your people, and it's allowing that signal time to ripple out. So again, today's day 7. I'm really excited to see how these episodes unfold. I feel like this is a new format that I really enjoy, and I cannot wait until I start getting comments so that we can discuss topics that you guys want to discuss as well. And yeah, until then, until tomorrow. See you.